My name is Callie Monroe, 32 years old. The morning it all began, the sky looked heavy, like it already knew what was coming. I was 2 hours late for work. My 6-year-old son, Levi, was burning with fever, and the sitter had canceled again. The kettle hissed on the stove while I tried to soothe him with a damp cloth, whispering promises I didn't believe. I called my mother, still thinking maybe this time would be different. "Mom, Levi's sick. I can't find anyone to watch him. Could you—" Her voice sliced through. "You expect me to babysit your bastard while your sister's at her spa day? Are you deranged?" The word bastard hit like a slap. I held the phone away from Levi's ear. "He's your grandson, Mom." "He's not mine," she spat. "You chose garbage. Now live in it." The line went dead. I stared at the peeling wallpaper, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. Levi's small voice broke through. "Mom, am I in trouble?" "I in?" "No, sweetheart." I brushed his hair back. "You're my good boy. We just need rest." That weekend, an invitation arrived from my parents. Handwritten, floral, fake. Family picnic, it said, as if we'd been one. They'd never invited me to anything, but I went. Maybe because I wanted Levi to see what family could look like, or maybe because I still hoped. When we arrived, the park was too perfect. Tables lined with banners, a rented bounce house, everything polished for photographs. My father stood by the grill, beer in hand, surrounded by cousins and laughter. My sister Brittany's new convertible gleamed like a trophy beside her. "Look who crawled out from under her rock," Dad announced. Callie and her little sidekick. The laughter that followed wasn't friendly. Levi squeezed my hand. I forced a smile. Mom fluttered toward me, her perfume thick as smoke. "Don't look so tense, sweetheart. Today's about fun." Then Dad raised his red cup. "Time for the family roast." Everyone gathered. My heart pounded. He grinned at me. "And here's our proudest disappointment. She even brought her trash to the party." The word trash echoed. I heard a cousin snort. Someone filmed. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. Levi peeked from behind me, confusion clouding his little face. "Dad," I whispered, "stop." "Oh, don't look so serious." Mom placed a manicured hand on Levi's shoulder. "Come help Grandma with something in the back." She led us behind the tents, toward the dumpsters lined against the alley wall. A few cousins followed, still laughing. I thought they were setting up a prank, maybe a game. Then Dad swung open the green lid. The smell hit first. Rot, heat, metal. "Your room's ready," he said. "What?" Before I could move, he shoved me. I hit the rim, then fell, into filth, into shock. A scream tore out as the lid slammed. I heard Levi cry out, then a second thud. His small body landed on my legs. "Levi!" I clawed upward, pounding the plastic. "Baby, are you okay?" His sobs shook through me. Outside, their laughter rose, a carnival of cruelty. "She finally found where she belongs," Dad's voice boomed. "Maybe the rats will have company." Cheers. Then silence. Footsteps fading. Inside, the air thickened. The stench of rot and shame pressed on my skin. Levi whimpered, "Mom, are we garbage?" My throat locked. "No," I whispered. "No, we're not." Minutes blurred, sweat and tears mixed. I counted Levi's breaths, willing them steady. Then, metal scraping, light spilling in, a man's voice. "Lord have mercy." A janitor, Mr. Ron, his name tag said, peered down. He didn't ask questions. He just reached out a calloused hand. He drove us home in silence, his old pickup smelling faintly of soap and dust. At the curb, he said quietly, "People like that, I've seen them before. You ever want help with something serious, you call me. Trash ain't the ones in the bin." I nodded, unable to speak. Levi clutched his dinosaur blanket, staring out the window like he'd aged years in an hour. That night, I scrubbed our clothes in the sink until the water turned black. Levi mumbled in his sleep, "We are not trash." When he finally drifted off, I opened the old notebook from my closet, the one I'd kept hidden for years. Inside were pages of plans, sketches, dreams I once had before everything fell apart. A business idea, written in fading pen. Restore and rise. Disaster cleaning and recovery. I'd written it in college, before I got pregnant, before Dad called me a failure, before Mom said I'd ruined the family name, back when I still believed I could build something that mattered. Now the words looked different, like a prophecy. I touched the cover, tracing the logo I'd drawn, a phoenix rising from broken glass. My hands still smelled faintly of garbage, but for the first time, I didn't feel dirty. The next morning, the sun bled orange through the blinds. I brewed coffee, shaky but awake. Levi's voice came soft behind me. Mom, what are you doing? What are you? Making a list. For what? For everything we're going to fix. I didn't know where to start, only that I would. I sent a text to Mr. Ron. When you said to call if I ever needed serious help, I'm cashing that in. He replied within minutes. Be there in 2 hours. Bring your courage. I looked at Levi, at the blanket still clutched in his hands, and whispered, We're done being their joke. Outside, a garbage truck rumbled down the street. I watched it lift bins, crush what was useless, and move on. For the first time, I understood its language. You can throw things away, but some things rise again. That day, I stopped waiting for apologies. I stopped begging for belonging. I picked up the pen and wrote 3 words under my old dream. Begin again. Today. The first time Mr. Ron sat at my wobbly kitchen table, he slid a beat-up laptop toward me, like he was dealing a card that could change the game. You're going to need permits, insurance, and a bank account that doesn't look like it's gasping for air, he said, half smiling. His hands smelled faintly of pine sol, the clean kind of old. He didn't pity me. He respected the fight he saw. That mattered more than money. We started with the grant application. The community fund asked for a mission statement, projected costs, and proof I was serious. I wrote like my life depended on commas lining up, on numbers making sense. Restore and Rise will provide trauma site, storm, and sanitation cleanup with dignity, speed, and discretion. Mr. Ron read it twice and tapped the page. You know what you're really selling? He asked. Dignity. He circled the word. Don't forget that when the work gets ugly. Levi colored dinosaurs at the table, listening without pretending not to. Every now and then, he'd look up and ask something like, Do people's houses cry? And I'd swallow that ache and answer, sometimes, we bring tissues. When we hit submit, we both exhaled like we'd been holding our breath for years. 2 months later, the email came. Approved. Not a fortune, but enough for starter gear, a used van, the color of cold oatmeal, and the kind of insurance that keeps you from losing everything if a ladder slips. Day work stayed the same. I scrubbed a diner's grill until grease freckles dotted my arms and my hair smelled like fries. At night, after Levi fell asleep, I trained. Manuals, online courses, practice with equipment. Mr. Ron borrowed from the church's maintenance closet. He drilled me on protocols, PPE, cross-contamination, OSHA. I messed up more than once. The first time I sealed a bio bag wrong, he made me cut it open and redo it 3 times. Sloppy is how people get hurt, he said, not unkind. You want to be excellent? Be boring about safety. The first client came through a neighbor of a neighbor, a single mom whose bathroom ceiling had collapsed after a leak. When we arrived, humidity clung to the walls, and it smelled like a wet basement. She apologized for everything, the mess, the crying baby, the bills. I laid out tarps, taped off the hall, explained each step. Mr. Ron handled the ladder. I scraped ruined drywall while Levi, off school that day and pressed into being my junior inspector, sat in the doorway naming mold spots after dragons so they'd seem less scary. When we finished, the air felt lighter. The woman tried to pay me full price. I charged half. She cried. Why would you do that? She asked. Because people treated me like I was the mess, I said, surprising myself with the words. But this is just a ceiling. Ceilings can be rebuilt. Word spread slowly. 2 jobs became 4, then 8. A landlord with a hoarder unit called after seeing our van at another building. He paced while we walked to the apartment, the smell dense and sweet with rot. It's a lot, he said. I put on gloves and said, It's Tuesday. Mr. Ron laughed once, short and proud. We built a rhythm, intake photos, scope, PPE, staging, haul out, sanitize, deodorize. I learned that quiet competence makes people cry more than comfort does. You restore the room restores their breath. Online, my family performed a different story. Brittany posted photos of manicures and wedding dress fittings like she was auditioning for a version of adulthood that came with trophies. Mom commented under every picture, our pride and joy. Under a photo of the convertible, hard work pays. There was a photo of a brunch with my parents, captioned, Some daughters make it easy to love. I typed and deleted 3 responses before setting my phone face down. Mr. Ron noticed. You can't mop the ocean, he said. Only the floor in front of you. Some nights I almost quit. The van needed a new transmission. The grant had 1,000 strings. A job left me shaking after cleaning a room where sorrow had lived too long. One night, I came home and found Levi asleep, holding his dinosaur blanket over his chest like armor. The same blanket he'd clutched in the dumpster. I sat on the floor, forehead to my knees, and let the memory wash over me, not to drown, but to cleanse whatever doubt was left. We are not trash, he'd whispered. I stood up, made a budget spreadsheet, and sent 3 cold emails to property managers with subject lines that read like lifelines. Reliable cleanup. Discreet. Insured. References. 2 replied by morning. By the end of the month, I had a small contract. By the end of the next, I had an exclusive with one company that owned half the buildings on our bus route. We bought a second van. My first employee was a woman named Drea, who could lift a dryer by herself and cry quietly in stairwells when a job reminded her of a life she'd escaped. I didn't ask for details. I paid her $1 more than I could afford and told her the rule Mr. Ron gave me. We sell dignity. She nodded like I'd said something worth holding. The morning I let Levi choose a new backpack, he stood in the aisle like he was choosing a future. He looked at me carefully, testing the edges of joy. When I told him he could have the matching lunchbox, he cried so hard he hiccuped. At the register, the cashier stuck a sticker on his hand and said, "Big day?" He nodded solemnly. "We don't pick just one anymore," he said. "We can pick 2. I swallowed the lump in my throat and decided right then I would never again apologize for abundance earned honestly. Brittany's engagement announcement popped up like a commercial. Mom wrote, "Classy affair only." Dad added, "Family knows their place." A week later, I got a call from the manager of a fancy reception hall with chandeliers like upside-down crystal gardens. They needed an overnight sanitation crew the day before a high-profile wedding. "We had 3 vendors flake," she said, voice tight. I looked at the calendar and knew. The venue, the timing, the odds. "We can do it," I said, and when she quoted the fee, I countered with half. She hesitated. "That's generous." I smiled into the phone. "Let's just say I have a personal interest in a spotless space." We arrived at midnight, my crew in clean uniforms, hair tied back, faces set. The hall smelled of flowers and old champagne. We moved like a quiet storm through aisles and corners, wiping fingerprints off stainless steel and scooping invisible dust from the edges of baseboards. I like the part of cleaning that becomes choreography. The pass of a mop, the click of a sprayer, the whisper of plastic being smoothed over carpet. In the staff office, the wedding seating chart was taped to a corkboard, names typed in looping script, table numbers embossed like they were announcing something more permanent than a meal. I found my name near the exit, at a table that might as well have been in the parking lot. No +1 for Levi, of course. I took a photo. On the desk sat a small access card labeled with the hall's logo. The manager had given it to me in case of emergency. I slipped it into my pocket like a confession I intended to keep safe. At 3 a.m., Drea was scraping wax off the parquet when she glanced at me. "You good?" she asked. I looked at my reflection in the glass doors, a woman in gloves and worn sneakers, who looked steadier than the girl who fell into a dumpster. "I'm clean," I said. We finished at dawn. The manager signed the form and thanked us with the kind of relief that makes you feel necessary. I didn't show up for the ceremony. Instead, I sent a courier in our uniform with a white envelope addressed to the family who left us in the trash. Inside, a printout of my company's bank statement with the decimals that meant I could breathe, a photo of me and Levi in front of our new apartment door where we'd painted "Home by Hand," and a note that read, "The dumpster is empty now. So are your seats in our lives." By noon, my phone buzzed like a hive. Unknown numbers. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. A text from Dad. "You think money makes you better than us?" Another from Mom. "Do not embarrass the family today." Brittany posted a story of the aisle with the caption, "Some people never learn class." I turned my phone off and slid it in a drawer. Then I put on a suit I'd found at a thrift store and had tailored until it fit like it had been waiting for me. I dressed Levi in a tiny version and taught him how to straighten his tie. He looked at himself in the mirror, astonished. "We look like the people who own the building," he said. "We look like the people who fix the building," I corrected gently, and he grinned because he knew that was better. When we arrived at the reception, heads turned the way they do when weather changes midday. The hum fell off a cliff. Mom's mouth formed a perfect O. Dad's hand tightened around a glass. Brittany's jaw flexed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I walked to the center aisle, placed a second envelope on the gift table, this one addressed to whoever still wants the truth, and turned to Levi. "Ready?" I asked. He nodded, small and certain. We didn't stay. We didn't need to. Some storms announce themselves and pass. Others leave a scent in the air that promises more. As we stepped back into daylight, Levi squeezed my fingers and said, almost to himself, "Can we go home now?" The question held no fear, only preference, like choosing the better view from a clean window. I knew then that the next chapter wouldn't be written in their house or on their terms. It would be written in mine. When my parents showed up at my new apartment a week later, the air outside still smelled like spring rain and asphalt, but the look on my mother's face promised a storm. She didn't knock, she banged. I opened the door to find her standing there with a wrinkled envelope, mascara smudged like war paint. "We need your help," she snapped. Behind her, Dad shifted from foot to foot, avoiding my eyes. Levi peeked from behind my leg, small but steady. Mom shoved the paper at me. "Your sister's honeymoon was canceled. Her husband's accounts are frozen. They say it's fraud, but it's just a misunderstanding. We just need a place to stay until it clears." Her tone wasn't a request. It was ownership. "You want to stay here?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Dad tried the soft approach. "Just a few days. You've got the space. You've done well, Callie. We're proud." Proud. The word tasted like rust. "You didn't even send flowers after—" I stopped myself. Never mind. Levi's fingers tightened on my jeans. Mom brushed past me into the living room like she'd just returned from a vacation, commenting on everything. "This couch looks cheap, but it's clean. Finally, some discipline." She dropped her purse on the counter. "Where's the guest room?" "There isn't one," I said. "Well, you and the boy can share a room," she replied. "We'll take yours. It's only fair, considering everything we've done for you." I looked at her. "Everything?" Dad's voice hardened. "You owe us, Callie. Food, housing, years of sacrifice." "You mean the food I never got? The housing you threw me out of?" Mom's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone." The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the air too thin. I thought of the dumpster, the lid closing. I thought of Levi's whisper, "We are not trash." That night, I packed Levi's bag quietly while they snored in my bed. He watched me with wide eyes. "Are we leaving again?" he whispered. "Yes," I said softly, but this time not running, just moving forward. By dawn, the van was loaded. I left a key on the counter and a note taped to the fridge. "Be careful what you claim ownership of. Some things fight back." We drove to the edge of town, to a quiet diner where Mr. Ron sometimes ate breakfast. He was already there, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. "You got squatters?" he asked after one look at my face. I nodded. He leaned back. "Well then, time to clean house." By noon, I called the landlord who owned the complex, a good man with a sense of humor that could make bad news sound manageable. "They moved in?" he said. "Didn't even ask?" "No lease, no permission," I confirmed. He chuckled. "Want me to change the locks?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them unpack. Let them feel safe." 3 days later, I arrived with my crew. 3 vans, bright uniforms, and a sign that read, "Biohazard cleaning in progress." The neighbors peeked through blinds. Phones clicked. Mom opened the door in a robe, her hair wild. "What is this?" she shrieked. "You said I owe you for shelter," I replied. "So I'm paying in the only currency I know, cleanup." Her eyes darted to the crew rolling in equipment, hoses, gloves, sealed bins. "You're humiliating us," she hissed. "You humiliated me first," I said, my voice even. In front of friends, in front of my son. Dad stormed out, face red. "Get out of here with this circus." "Don't worry," I said quietly. "You'll have the place to yourself again soon." He grabbed the sign and tore it in half, but it didn't matter. My team had already taped plastic sheets over the lawn and sealed off the entrance like a crime scene. By the time the neighbors started whispering, it was done. I left a formal notice on the door. "Dear residents, due to unsanitary conditions, policy violations, and fraudulent occupation, This unit has been flagged for immediate corrective action. Please vacate within 24 hours. It wasn't just legal, it was poetic. By sunset, they were gone, dragging garbage bags down the curb, faces pale, silence thicker than their perfume. I didn't watch them go. I was already inside, scrubbing countertops that weren't dirty. Some stains aren't visible to the eye. They live in memory. An hour later, Brittany appeared. Her heels clicked like punctuation marks of rage. "You think this makes you righteous?" she shouted. "You humiliated the entire family." I turned, still wiping. "No," I said. "I cleaned the mess." "You ruined everything," she screamed. "No," I repeated. "I just took away what you built on lies." Her mascara streaked. "You're a monster." I looked past her to where Levi stood by the van, holding his backpack. "Do monsters tuck you in?" I asked softly. He grinned. "Only if they make pancakes after." I smiled. "Then I guess I'm the nicest monster around." We left without another word. The next morning, news spread quietly around town. The family who once laughed at others' misfortune was now the one whispered about. I didn't need to post or prove anything. Truth travels faster than revenge. My business doubled that month. A city contract came through. Trauma restoration and flood response. Real work. Real change. I hired more people. Women mostly. Survivors of silence. People who knew what it was to be seen as a stain and still choose to scrub. One evening, Levi called me to his new room. The walls were sky blue, the bed his own. "Look," he said proudly, pointing to a poster of a phoenix we'd hung together. "It's flying." I nodded. "That's us." He thought for a moment. "Do you think Grandma and Grandpa will ever say sorry?" "Maybe," I said, turning off the light. "But we don't need them to." He smiled sleepily. "We're clean now." "Yeah," I whispered. "We are." I stood at his door, watching his chest rise and fall. Outside, the night hummed with quiet, a clean kind of silence. For the first time, I didn't feel buried. I felt planted. And when I finally sat down with my notebook again, I didn't write plans or budgets or revenge. I just wrote one sentence across the page. We rose.